Hi, Ethan. Hi, Ari. Welcome to my new apartment. But enough with that. Let's get started with my analysis of my fortune cookies. Okay, so I have split up fortune cookies into four tiers. I think that a fortune cookie is prophetic if it has come true, or I think it's very likely to come true. It's wise if it's a smart thing, like it could possibly become true, but maybe not. Huh? Means I don't understand what this fortune means. And unsolicited advice is unfortunately where I think a lot of fortune cookies lie, as giving you advice that it has nothing to do with a prediction. All right. Number one, teach your children the value of accountability and taking responsibility. This is unsolicited advice. Easy peasy. Number two, if you work hard, good things will inevitably happen. This one's interesting. It's kind of unsolicited advice, but it's also a prediction. I'm going to say that it's, huh? What does that even mean? How does it know that good things will eventually happen, inevitably happen? I don't know. All right, number three, you will step on the soil of many countries. I'm going to say that this one's prophetic. I have stepped on the soil of many countries, and I expect myself to continue to step on the soil of many countries relative to the average American. Number four, believe in yourself, especially on Mondays, and you will conquer any obstacle. Huh? What, what, what does this one mean? So strange. There is strength in unity. All right, this one kind of breaks my dichotomy. Is it a fortune? I don't think it is. I'm throwing this one in huh as well. Your future will look like a grand adventure. I could see that, but I'm going to throw this in wise. Don't be afraid to admit when you need a break. This is classic unsolicited advice. Your soul craves the melodies of nature. Spend time in its symphony. Is this wise? This seems like unsolicited advice as well. Your next Chinese meal will bring more cookies. This has got to be the best advice I've ever seen, or the best fortune I've ever seen. It is definitely true. Straight to the top of prophetic tier. All right, love and harmony will fill your home. I think that this is probably going to be true, but I don't want to jinx myself. I will throw it in wise. The principal part of faith is patience. This isn't a fortune, but it's not unsolicited advice. I'm throwing it in. Huh? Last one. Visualize the life you desire. It shapes your future. This one is also kind of unsolicited advice. Is it advice? Is it saying in general that if you visualize the life you desire, it will shape one's future? Or is it saying that for me, that is particularly true? I'm throwing it in huh tier. All right, we have, out of 12 fortunes, 2 fortunes are prophetic, and 2 fortunes are wise. The rest are confusing or unsolicited advice. I understand that it's probably difficult to make sure that the right fortune gets to the right person, because they're probably not using any sort of complicated algorithm to determine who's going to get what meal and make sure that the right fortune gets to them. But I have higher expectations than I think that they do, and that's what I expect for my fortune cookies. All right, I've analyzed the fortunes themselves, but what else is there to analyze? There's also the lucky numbers, of course. So let's look at the lucky numbers. I've done some analysis. So I took all the lucky numbers from my 12 fortunes and concatenated them onto a list. Here they are, just sorted randomly on the left. On the right, I have them sorted in order. I noticed that the highest go up to 56. It seems like they probably go up to about 60. I was a little curious about that, and so I looked it up, and the answer is that fortune cookie companies only put numbers up to about 60 because that's how high a lot of lottery numbers go to, and they don't want to give you a fortune that you can't use for lottery numbers. which I think is funny. All right. So immediately, the first thing that I thought of that I can do with these numbers, I mean, any list of numbers, you can find your mean and standard deviation. I think that these aren't very interesting. Mean of 26, standard deviation of 16 and a half. Yep, it's a list of random numbers. The modes of my list, I think, are particularly interesting because they represent my lucky numbers. So let's look at this histogram of my lucky numbers. It's kind of not really a histogram because the bucket size is 1. We have 4 peaks at 6, 20, 32, and 40, which I have written here. So theoretically, any of these 4 numbers are equally good as my personal lucky number. I'm going to say that I like 20 as my personal lucky number because I think it's kind of interesting to have a relatively large but not too large lucky number. I feel like a lot of people's lucky numbers are single digit. Okay, we can also look at some other graphs I've made. This is probably the best graph that you could make with this data, but I've got a pie chart that looks like gobbledygook. That's always funny. I also have this histogram where I interpolated smoothly between each data point. This is like the worst thing you could do with this data. It's implies that the data is smooth somehow, which is funny to me. Here's all my data sorted in order with no lines in between because there's no interpolation. It shows that it's mostly linear. There's a couple of small gaps, but it's random data. I'm sure if I got enough, the line would smooth out. It'd be kind of interesting if I got like a statistically significant sample, maybe like 1,000, and then plotted them to see if it wasn't actually linear. Maybe specific numbers show up less often because they are only batching. I think they're probably doing like 120 unique fortunes, and then on the backs you have specific numbers, so maybe some numbers would show up less often just by the nature of the small number of different fortunes they have. On this sheet, I did this is kind of deranged. So I've got my list of numbers. Then every number I'm flooring to 26. So if it's I'm doing the modulo 26 of the number. So if it's bigger than 26, I'm subtracting 26 until it's between 1 and 26, so that, or between 0 and 26, so that I can get a number that I can convert into a letter. I guess I could get some outliers with this algorithm, which are zeros, which wouldn't work, but I happen to not get any. Here's the list of letters that I formed using those numbers. I was going to see if I could make some anagrams with them. There's relatively few vowels, so no matter what anagrams I was trying to make, I ended up with a ton of consonants left over, so it's hard to do that. But right here, it's kind of funny. I have the C word. I don't know if I want to say that on YouTube. Toy randomly appeared in this data set. I wonder if you have a random list of letters, how likely it is that you would get a couple words. It's kind of an interesting problem to try and solve. Okay, well, that's my fortune cookie analysis. That's everything I have to say. I hope you guys have a good week. Comment down below what your best fortunes were. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. And if you didn't like this video, blame my brothers. Ah!